Before bottles, before bars, before beer had a name, humans still found ways to feel different. But how? How did prehistoric people discover being drunk? They had no breweries, no glass bottles, no recipe books, no chemical formulas, no word for alcohol, and no idea that tiny living organisms could turn sugar into something that changed the mind. But nature already knew. Long before humans understood fermentation, fruit was falling from trees. Honey was sitting in hidden places. Grains were drying in the sun. Sweet things were changing quietly. And sometimes, when food changed, the body changed too. That is where the story begins. Not in a tavern, not in a city, not in a celebration, but under a tree, with fruit, with hunger, with curiosity, and with a strange feeling no one could explain. Most people imagine a simple story. They think humans discovered alcohol because they wanted to party. They imagine ancient people gathering around fire, drinking, laughing, and celebrating just like modern people do today. But that answer is too modern. It starts at the end of the story, not the beginning. The first reason was probably not fun. It was food. Sweet fruit meant calories. Calories meant energy. Energy meant survival. For a hungry animal, sweet fruit is not a tree. It is a signal. It says, eat this. It says, there is energy here. It says, this might keep you alive. And humans were animals too. Small animals. Fragile animals. Not strong like bears. Not fast like deer. Not protected like turtles. Not armed with claws. Not covered in fur thick enough to survive every night. A prehistoric human needed food badly. A sweet smell in the forest mattered. A fallen fruit mattered. A patch of berries mattered. The hidden honeycomb mattered. So before alcohol was a drink, it was part of a food search. A search for sweetness. A search for energy. A search for survival. But fruit does not stay the same forever. A fresh fruit can become soft. Then softer, then overripe. Then strange. Its smell changes. Its taste changes. Its surface changes. Tiny organisms, invisible to the human eye, begin to work. They feed on sugar, and slowly, they can create ethanol. No one saw this happen. No one had a microscope. No one knew what yeast was. No one could say, this is fermentation. But they would notice the result. The fruit smelled different. The fruit tasted different. And after eating it, the body felt different. A little warmer, a little lighter, a little slower. Maybe a little dizzy. Maybe a little happier. Maybe a little less afraid. Maybe a little less careful. That was the mystery. A food that changed the mood. A sweet thing that touched the mind. A natural chemical hidden inside ordinary survival. Humans were not the only animals to meet fermented fruit. Many animals are drawn to ripe fruit. A monkey can smell it. A bird can peck it. A deer can find fallen fruit on the ground. Nature does not put warning labels on food. There is no sign that says, this fruit has changed. There is only smell, taste, memory, and consequence. An animal might eat it and move on. But humans had one extra power. They could notice. They could remember. They could talk. They could warn. And they could repeat. That is the important difference. A monkey might find fermented fruit once. A human group could turn that moment into a story. Someone could say, in simple early language, that fruit made me feel strange. Someone else could remember the tree. Someone could point to the ground. Someone could say, not too much. Someone could say, only when we are near camp. Someone could say, do not eat that before walking far. One experience could become group knowledge. That is how a strange accident begins to turn into culture. Not because humans planned it perfectly, but because humans remember together. The first lesson was probably not simple. One fruit was food. Too much fruit became danger. A small amount might feel warm. Too much could make a person careless. A changed fruit might bring laughter. Too much might bring sickness. It could relax the group. It could also weaken the body. It could reduce fear. It could also reduce judgment. So the lesson had two sides: useful, risky, pleasant, dangerous, social, unstable. And humans are very good at remembering things that have two sides. Fire is useful. Fire is dangerous. Tools are useful. Tools are dangerous. Water is life. Water can also kill. Food is survival. Food can also poison. Fermented fruit may have entered the same mental category. Something powerful. something that needed attention, something the group had to understand. At first, this was not science, it was observation. Someone noticed the fruit. Someone noticed the smell. Someone noticed the feeling. Someone noticed what happened afterward. Then someone remembered the connection. Fruit, time, taste, feeling, danger, memory. This is one of the oldest human patterns. Notice the change. Feel the result. Remember the pattern. Tell someone else. The same pattern helped humans learn which plants were useful, which berries were dangerous, which water sources were risky, which tools worked, which animals to avoid, and maybe which change foods produced a strange state of mind. Then came another discovery. Food could change when it was stored. A fallen fruit under a tree is one thing, but stored food is something else. When humans began carrying food, collecting food, and leaving food near camp, time became part of the system. A bowl could be forgotten. A fruit pile could sit too long. Honey could mix with water. Grains could become wet. A container could hold food long enough for it to transform. Again, no one needed to understand the chemistry. They only needed to notice the difference. Maybe a group left food in a hollowed stone. Maybe fruit sat inside a skin bag. Maybe honey and water mixed by accident. Maybe wet grain was kept too long. Maybe a container was opened later. The smell was different. The taste was different. The effect was different. This is not a recipe, it is a human discovery pattern. Food plus time, storage plus accident, curiosity plus memory. The world changed things slowly. Humans noticed, and once humans noticed, they began to repeat. That is the hidden mechanism, not a sudden invention, not one genius person creating the first drink, not a perfect plan, but many small accidents, many small observations, many small memories. One person finds changed fruit. Another remembers the place. One group notices honey can change. Another group notices grain can change. One elder warns the young. One storyteller connects the feeling to a ritual. Over generations, the accident becomes a tradition. And tradition is one of the most powerful things humans ever created. Because tradition tells people what to do before they understand why. It says, only do this at certain times. It says, do this with the group. It says, do not do this alone. It says, this has meaning. It says, this can be dangerous. This is where the story becomes bigger than alcohol, because being drunk was not only chemical, it was social. A dizzy person alone in the wild is vulnerable. They can fall, they can wander, they can miss danger, they can make poor decisions, they can become separated from the group. In nature, losing control is dangerous, but inside a group, the same feeling can become something different. It can become shared. It can become watch. It can become bounded. It can become controlled by rules. A bowl can become a signal. A fire can become a stage. A night can become a ritual. The group can say, this is when it happens. This is where it happens. This is who is allowed. This is how much is too much. This is what it means. That is culture beginning to control chemistry. The body changes because of a chemical, but the meaning comes from the group. That is still true today. A drink at a wedding means one thing. A drink alone in danger means another. A drink in a ritual means one thing. A drink before a serious task means another. The same chemical can carry many meanings: celebration, danger, belonging, escape, status, trust, loss of control, memory, forgetfulness. That is why alcohol is never just a liquid. It is a story humans tell around a chemical. In prehistoric life, stories mattered. Stories told people where to go, what to avoid, what to eat, what to fear, what to respect, what to repeat, and a strange food that changed the mind would need a story. Without a story, it is just confusion. With a story, it becomes part of the group. Maybe the story said the fruit belonged to a season. Maybe it belonged to a feast. Maybe it belonged to elders. Maybe it belonged near the fire. Maybe it belonged to mourning. Maybe it belonged to celebration. Maybe it belonged to a moment when the group needed to feel united. We do not need to imagine prehistoric people as reckless. We should imagine them as careful in a dangerous world. Because danger was everywhere. A bad fall mattered. A wrong plant mattered. A careless night mattered. The group could not afford constant loss of control. So if humans used intoxicating foods or drinks, they probably surrounded them with limits. Not written laws, not labels, not age rules like modern society, but social rules, looks, warnings, stories, customs, who drinks, when, how much, with whom, near the fire or far away, before travel or after the day is done, alone or with others. These questions are not modern. They are ancient human questions. They are questions about risk, and humans are risk-managing animals. We do not just seek pleasure. We build rules around pleasure. We do not just find danger. We build warnings around danger. We do not just feel strange things. We explain them. That is one of the deepest parts of being human. We turn body experiences into shared meanings. Hunger becomes mealtime. Fear becomes warning stories. Pain becomes medicine. Death becomes ritual. And intoxication becomes culture. Think about the campfire. A fire is not just heat. It is a place, a center, a boundary between darkness and safety, a gathering point. Around fire, people could see each other's faces. They could listen. They could remember. They could laugh. They could sing. They could tell stories. If a fermented food or drink entered that circle, it would not remain only a chemical event. It would become part of the campfire world, part of the voice, part of the song, part of the memory, part of the group identity. This may be why intoxicating substances in many cultures became connected to ritual. Not because ancient people were foolish, but because altered states needed meaning. If the mind changes, people ask why. If emotions shift, people explain it. If fear drops, people mark the moment. If the group feels closer, people remember the setting. Humans do not leave powerful feelings unexplained. They build symbols around them. That does not mean every explanation was correct. Ancient people could misunderstand the cause. They could think the feeling came from spirits, from ancestors, from the plant itself, from the season, from the fire, from a hidden force. But even wrong explanations can organize behavior. A ritual can say, be careful. A story can say, this is not ordinary food. A custom can say, do not treat this casually. In that way, culture can protect people even before science explains why. That is the strange brilliance of human groups. They can create useful behavior before they understand the mechanism. Long before chemistry, humans could still ask, what happened last time? Who felt strange? Who got sick? Who stayed safe? What was different? What should we repeat? What should we avoid? This is not modern science, but it is the root of science: observation, memory, comparison, correction, teaching, the same pattern that helped humans learn fire, tools, hunting, healing, and migration may also have shaped how they handled fermented foods. The big turn is this: alcohol did not simply enter human life as a drink. It entered through ecology, through ripe fruit, through sweetness, through storage, through accident, through memory. Then it became social, then symbolic, then regulated, then commercial, then modern. Today, the world looks completely different. We have bars, restaurants, weddings, holidays, sports celebrations, religious rituals, national laws, medical warnings, addiction science, advertising, brands, taxes, age limits, social pressure, rehab clinics, public health campaigns. All of that seems modern, but underneath it is an ancient pattern. A chemical changes the body, a group gives it meaning, a society builds rules around it. That is the same pattern: scale up. The campfire became the city. The custom became the law. The clay bowl became the bottle. The elder's warning became the public health label. The seasonal ritual became the holiday toast. The shared memory became culture. This is why the history of getting drunk is not only about drinking. It is about human behavior. It is about how groups manage powerful experiences. It is about how pleasure and danger travel together. It is about how the body can be changed by chemistry, but behavior is shaped by society. One person alone may feel something. A group decides what it means. And once a group decides what something means, the meaning can last for thousands of years. That is how humans build worlds. Money is paper, but society gives it power. A flag is cloth, but society gives it meaning. A law is words, but society gives it force. A drink is liquid, but society gives it a story. The physical thing is only part of the truth. The shared meaning is the other part. So when we ask, What did prehistoric people do to get drunk? The answer is not just, they ate fermented fruit, or they found honey, or they stored grain. Those may be parts of the story. But the deeper answer is this: they encountered a natural chemical change. They felt its effect. They remembered it. They shared it. They surrounded it with meaning. And slowly, they turned a strange feeling into a human event. That is the key. A strange feeling became a shared event. A changed fruit became a memory. A memory became a custom. A custom became culture. And culture became the way humans controlled something they did not yet understand. We should not romanticize it. Alcohol has always carried danger. Too much can harm the body. Too much can break judgment. Too much can damage trust. Too much can turn belonging into chaos. That was true then. It is true now. But that danger is part of why the story matters. Humans did not simply discover pleasure. They discovered a problem. How do you handle something that feels good, but can also hurt you? How do you handle something that brings people together, but can also make them careless? How do you handle a chemical that changes the individual, but affects the whole group? That question did not disappear. Modern society is still asking it. Every law, every warning, every family rule, every cultural ritual, every private decision around alcohol is part of the same ancient question. How much freedom? How much control? How much pleasure? How much risk? How much belonging? How much harm? This is why the story of prehistoric intoxication is not a small curiosity. It is a window into human nature. Humans are not only tool makers. We are meaning makers. We do not only find things in nature. We turn them into systems. We find fire, and we create the hearth. We find plants, and we create medicine. We find sounds, and we create language. We find danger, and we create rules. We find strange feelings, and we create rituals. That may be what happened here. At first, there was only fruit. Then a changed smell. Then a changed body. Then a memory. Then a warning. Then a shared bowl. Then a story around a fire. And eventually, a whole world of meanings. So before bottles, before bars, before beer had a name, prehistoric humans may have discovered intoxication the same way they discovered so many things. By accident, by hunger, by curiosity, by paying attention, and by remembering together. They did not start with a drink. They started with nature. They did not start with a party. They started with food. They did not start with chemistry. They started with a feeling, and they did not understand the feeling alone. They brought it into the group. That may be the oldest ingredient of all. Not fruit, not honey, not grain, not time, but a group willing to remember what happened, a group willing to give meaning to a mystery, a group willing to turn a strange moment into a story. Because that is what humans do. We find the world. Then we explain it. We feel something. Then we name it. We fear something. Then we build rules around it. We enjoy something. Then we build rituals around it. And sometimes, without understanding the chemistry, we still understand the danger. And sometimes, without knowing the science, we still create the culture. The first drink may have been simple, but the story around it was not. It was food. It was risk. It was memory. It was group life. It was chemistry becoming culture. And in a way, every modern glass still carries a trace of that first question. What happened to the fruit? Why did the body change? And why did humans decide to gather around it?